So in previous videos or explanations, I told you how we are proceeding with this. So I imported this in my part, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to mention some code here. So let me go to the project structure. You can change the views here, packages also here you can check, or you can say project structure also. So in src main in Java, you can say this is my package basically. So I don't want to go in further part. So what I can do, I can just switch to the package view, and inside the package view I can see the packages also. So this is all the things, and this is application properties, which is basically the application things here. So as you can see, this is application properties files, you can check here. So let me close this, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to invoke some things here. So let us check what I'm going to mention here is basically. So before going in further part, I need to mention one thing here. As I told you, I'm going to use here one CSV file, which is basically from raw data file, and I am using here one GitHub raw data file. It is deploying in every day, it is updating in every day. So I'm going to fetch data from that file. You can use any other thing, but my recommendation is check for their headers, check for its CSV file or not. So these are some important things. So in this part, what I'm going to do, I'm going to mention one thing here. So let me right click this. So okay, so let me right click this, click new here. I'm creating Java class here. Okay. So you can use by directory structure, you can go by file name, or you can go with the class. So let me go with click new Java class, and this dot. Okay, so what I can do, I can go to the project structure only. In this application, let me click new dot. Now what I'm going to mention is basically coronavirus data service. So what it will do, it will create a service package with some this, which is basically our class, and it is going to fetch the data for us. So click hit enter. So what is happened basically, it's created a service file. So if I go to packages thing, you can see services is created here. So this is my another package, and let me go with that side. Okay, so let me zoom this part a little bit. So this is my package, COVID tracker, COVID this, and this is basically our service. So I imported this file. So I need to mention the URL data first. So what I'm going to do is I'm giving up your private static URL data, basically private static, which is basically string only, string, and the name is I'm going to specify is virus data URL. So you can use anything, but I already coded some part here. So virus data URL, and let me go with this. So let me mention the data file here, or we can say URL here. You can use any other thing here, but as I told you, you need to maintain the basically it's a CSV file. Check for its CSV file or not. If it's not a CSV, you have to check the CSV file only. And I am using here GitHub raw data file here. So as I told you, I mentioned here GitHub raw data file. So virus data URL is invoked. So now what I'm going to do is let me create one thing here, or let me mention something here. So this is basically the statistics, but I need to append this list in one location status, because it's a location wise. I need to create one list here. So let me mention this list. So I'm going to explain you what is this thing. Let me alt enter this basically, and what I'm going to do is, let me start this. Okay. So location stats, I'm going to explain you what is the useful thing here. I'm going to mention here. So this is the basic thing I mentioned. Now let me create one thing here, which is basically list, public list, location stat with all stats. So it will get the all statistics from that. So it is a location style. So I will explain you later what I'm going to do is here. So I'm just invoking the URL, but what I'm going to do is I need to create one method to fetch that things. So in this class only, after the closing this, let me mention one method to fetch the data. So let me create public void fetch COVID data, or we can say fetch virus data. And this is my method. So okay, as I told you, we need to mention this again. I need to mention this thing. I'm going to create location stats. Don't worry about it. I will create it later in later part. Let me create one HTTP client here. HTTP client. So remember, this is Java thing, and what I'm going to mention is here. Okay, so .NET Java.NET file, HTTP client file, and let me create one client here, which is basically name as. Let me close this event class first. Okay. Client is equal to new and HTTP client. So this is all about how I am going to do this. Okay, I forgot to mention our client is not this basically. Okay, how I'm explaining this again. Okay, our thing is to create HTTP client. So basically HTTP client dot new HTTP client. That's it. I need to mention the HTTP client to receive the client request. So let me create one builder thing. What is the builder thing is basically HTTP request. HTTP request. Let me mention this as a request only. It's a variable. You can use anything here. HTTP request is equal to request with some builder class, which is basically HTTP request dot new builder, or we can say okay, new builder only, new builder dot. So why I'm mentioning the dot? As I told you, our data is URL, not so URI thing. I need to mention here URI also. URI. So URI is basically nothing but integrated, you can say, URI create, and I'm going to mention this virus data URL. Plus I need to mention one thing here is build. I need to build this. So build. So I mentioned this. So we already created this. So I need to mention one thing here is this is basically HTTP URL. Our request is, but I need to mention it's a URI. URI is embedded thing. So I need to create one embedded thing here, and I'm mentioning this. So forget about these things. I'm going to create the array list for that purpose to store the location. I already created this. I'm going to run this project after all the things I invoke. Let me just do one thing. Whenever there is a this thing, let me do this part. And what I'm going to do is system dot out dot println request. So this can be we cannot print a request here. If you want to do, you can print the request also, but before that we need to create a string framework here, because it's not a string first, we need to make a string here. So what I'm going to do is http response here now. So response, then inside this response I'm going to mention one, it's a string framework, string. Use this string only, not a small string, because we are going to handle the string handling methods also. HTTP response only I'm going to mention here. HTTP response is equal to what I'm going to do is client. This is client dot send. Now I want to mention the HTTP response. So first is basically request. So this is basically, we can say we are working with client request and this model in the Spring framework only. HTTP. For this purpose, what is the thing is HTTP response only. HTTP response dot body handlers, then again dot of string okay. So what I need to mention is here is basically HTTP response dot body handlers of string, not spring, sorry, strings. Let me do this again. So okay, so it is telling me to okay. So our example is not throws IO exception, that's a thing here. IO exception and interrupted exception I need to mention here, because we are going to face that exception also. So this is it, how we are going to do this. So let me do one thing. Let me invoke this directly. Okay. So what the missing thing is, I'm specify this. So this can be generate error sometimes. Mention this request with this, and what I can do, I can print here this thing. Okay. So in the COVID this application, what I can do, I can run this application. So let us check it's running or not. If there is an error, we are going to develop this and we are going to check that part. So currently it's taking build, it's running, and each and everything it's doing, running Maven and output directories also. It is taking the part of that. So it will take time to run each and everything. Once this is done, you can say this is the thing which is removed in future, but our Spring Boot is doing very well. And I can see change this started COVID application. JVM is running now. So this is our basically the application is running, it is creating servlet engine, everything is running, and Spring is now working very well, Spring Boot. So this is basically warning, you can check. And as I told you, I'm just printing this part only, so it will print the info part. Let me stop this. And so our response thing is working very well. So I will remove this in later part. Let me create one thing, or let me add one dependency injection here. So our dependency injection is nothing but one what we can say comms file here. So let me copy it from web. Let me go to the okay, it will not open here, it will check from here only. So let me go to the project in here. Let me go to the pom.xml. So I need to mention one Spring dependency, so I will add it here only, which is basically comms.csv, and which is basically the for the common thing here. So you can check here injection. So let me reload this part. So it is resolving our dependencies, and if the dependency found, it will download that. So this is the basic thing of what we can say checking each and everything. So this is the dependency injection here. So as you can see, our dependency now injected very well, which is basically apache.coms. So what is the basic thing I'm using here is, while printing the data, I don't want to mention it as a comma separated. I need to mention it's as a handling the request and in the tabular manner. So I invoke that part. So later I will explain how this is going to work. So in further things, I'm going to check this part also. Let me add 2-3 things more here. Because due to time constraint, I don't want to specify much more time in that. You can use directly these things. So let me mention that part first, and it's very useful part, which is basically CSV part, nothing more, which is basically string reader. I'm going to use it later because, and okay, let me import java.io.star, then here is also star. So useful thing is in Java is you can import all the libraries. Let me mention here is importing. So you can check I'm importing the libraries here. These are the some system default libraries here. And let me add one more thing is basically parsing the thing with string reader, which is basically iterable. Iterable is nothing but checking this again and again. So again, what is the thing is basically okay, alt enter. So I'm going to okay, alt enter again. So it will create class and each and everything here. Okay, let me do this later. So it will import this, and this is we already done it pom.xml, and I'm mentioning a default thing here. You can check the documentation of comms on the available internet, but comms is nothing but it will check defaultly the headers files. So as in this GitHub file, or we can say raw data file, GitHub data file, there are already headers. In further part, I'm going to mention HTML page also, and how we are going to depend that part. And we need to store the some locations also in our system. So I will tell you how we are going to do that.